Hello, I'm Charlotte Patmore. I am Vote for Patmore on the internet, and this is my podcast. Okay, so today I'm going to tell the story about me breaking my leg. And I have gone back and forth about whether it's not the right thing to do or not, or whether it's kind of a bit too trauma-y and therefore I shouldn't tell the story. But it is a really interesting story, and I, have done a lot of therapy, and I did PTSD therapy around First of all, before I start talking, I want to kind of issue quite a heavy trigger warning that I obviously will be discussing being in a road traffic accident, breaking my leg, being in hospital. That can be really distressing for people or triggering for people. Also, depression and PTSD. I guess they put me on lots of medication, so that could potentially be distressing for people. If any of those things are big triggers for you and you're not feeling good today, you're not feeling in a good headspace, please don't listen to this. Please turn it off. And even if you decide to listen to it and maybe none of these things have happened to you and it's not as a direct trigger, but then if you're listening to this and you start feeling like your heart racing, or you start feeling uncomfortable, or you start feeling distressed in any way, please just turn it off and ground, do something nice for yourself. I think it's important to share things that aren't necessarily shiny and nice, but I also don't want this to be distressing or hurtful or painful for anyone else. So please be kind with yourself, and I really appreciate everyone for listening and supporting me, but really take care of yourself and just check in with how you're feeling while you're listening. And if it is making you feel in any way distressed, please turn it off. I'm sat here, I made a cup of tea, and it's one of those yogi teas that if you've had one before, you'll know that they come with a little affirmation. When tea has the little tab bit that's on the string. And my tea today says, lift up others by your peaceful presence, which is so cute. It actually made me cry. But hopefully I will tell the story peacefully. Hopefully this will be calming and interesting, and the story has comical moments in it, and it is an interesting story, but obviously there is a lot of heavy topics happening within the conversation. So if you're not feeling good today, please prioritize yourself, and you can always come back when you're feeling better, or just never come back. Just skip this one. Okay, so hopefully everyone feels like they have made the right decision to continue. Okay, so the story starts. So let's set the scene. It's 2013, obviously. Obviously, it's 2013. That's where all these stories are at the moment. So it's 2013. It's Halloween. It's October 31st. And I am editing photos of Wolf Alice. Wolf Alice played a gig I really want to say Dingwalls. I think it was at Dingwalls in Camden. It was like a really big gig for them at the time. And this was like at a point where they'd like just got signed, maybe like a few weeks or like even days before this gig. And it was a really exciting moment in time for them because like all of the other indie bands were kind of like way bigger than them for ages. And this was like the beginning point when it started to shift. It shifted really slowly, to be fair, but like this was when the shifting started to happen. And yes, I'm editing these pictures. I think I shot it for Clash magazine. So the next day, I'm pretty sure it was the next day, they were going to Hong Kong, I feel. I mean, I could be getting all these facts wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were going to Hong Kong with Burberry and like Burberry flying them out, and they were maybe going to like fashion show or like playing at a fashion show or something. I can't remember, but they were like going on this big trip and so viscerally was like felt so jealous. And I think jealousy is a really amazing emotion because it shows you like what you desire, it shows you what you want, and it shows you what's maybe like important to you, or kind of just like an area that you should follow or pursue. So I was feeling this like jealousy about them getting to like go on this trip. And I'm obviously like editing these pictures, thinking about it, and the whole like Odd Future Tyler situation. Go listen to that episode if you haven't. That had like just happened quite recently, and they had invited me to go to LA to go to the Odd Future Festival camp. Flognor. I literally don't know how to pronounce it. Like, good luck with that. But this was like the very beginning. Like, this must have been the third one, maybe. It was really new and really exciting. And they were like, if you can get yourself to LA, then you can come and we'll take care of you. And like, you can come and shoot it and stuff. And I was just like, I can't really afford to do that. I'd never been to LA before. And like, you know, that was kind of like scary, I guess. But also, I was just like, that's like reckless spending of money. And I've been working. I had like I would say I was like shooting stuff. I had like loads and loads and loads of jobs that I was doing to try and like make enough money to be able to like stay in London or like survive in London. And I was working at Topshop, Oxford Circus. I used to work on a concession, so in the basement. And like they they like fired me because I was just terrible, in their words, at working in a shop. They were like independent brands that were sold in Topshop. I used to shoot all of their lookbooks, and they literally wrote in my letter where they like fired me that I'm a really good photographer and I should pursue photography, but I shouldn't work in a shop. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe that is a compliment, but savage. So anyway, I lost my job in Topshop and I am doing these like gigs and stuff, but I just like have been kind of like raised to be really like selective with spending money, and it just felt so like frivolous to buy an aeroplane ticket to LA. That felt like not something that I should do. But then I'm sat editing these pictures, feeling the jealousy and feeling like, oh, I wish that I had an opportunity like that. I wish that I was going to get to travel and have this like really exciting opportunity. And then I'm also sitting there thinking like, well, I have been offered this really amazing, exciting opportunity. And the only thing stopping me is like me buying this plane ticket. And in reality, I'm going to be able to earn the money back, but like I won't necessarily ever get that opportunity again. So I'm like, you know what? I actually really should go. Like, there's no, like, me sitting here feeling sorry for myself is pathetic when I have an opportunity and like I can make that opportunity happen. I should. And even if it's not like the most sensible choice, it like is like following my heart or whatever. Do you know, like that is what I am, like what I desire, leaning into like the kind of like jealousy thing. And so I'm like, right, I'm gonna go. And I book my plane ticket to go to LA, and I tell them I'm coming, I'm gonna come to the Odd Future Carnival. And I'm so excited. And I'm like, I like that's so cool. Like really like, instead of feeling like kind of like helpless and like just kind of like, I have no autonomy in my life. I was like, no, I do have autonomy and I can make decisions that will make me feel really good and that like is what I want to do. And also like, I don't need to feel like resentment or jealousy towards other people's like opportunities when I do actually have like these incredible opportunities, and I should just be like seizing them. And obviously like it's really hard to undo that like lack mindset, especially when it comes to like money, to be like, no, I can actually spend this money on this and it will come back and like it'll be okay. And also the opportunity could bring me like a huge job anyway. And yeah, I, just should lean into like what is actually gonna make me feel really good. And it felt really like reckless, but actually it was really exciting to be like, no, you worked really hard and you're allowed to like go on this like amazing trip. Go do it for yourself. And so thank you, Wolf Alice. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna go and choose me. I'm gonna go and do this thing for me. And I booked the flight, and then I'm like, right, I'm starving. I don't have any food and I need to go to the supermarket. So my plan is that I'll go to the supermarket, I'll get shopping, I'll come home, I will cook something, and then I will finish editing the pictures and send them. And then I'll probably go to like a party because it's Halloween and there'll be like loads of different things happening. And I'll just see, what everyone's doing later on after I've like done all of the stuff I need to do. And so I'm like, great. Off I go, and I go to Tesco and I do my shopping and like, great. And then the Tesco is in this kind of like shopping center. It's in Surrey Quays, like Canada Water. It has like such an interesting vibe, the like shopping center, and like it actually really reminds me of the Grand Arcade in Wigan, which no one will understand that reference, but it's just like the shopping center in Wigan, but it has like that vibe to it. But actually the Wigan one was kind of like popping, I guess. It's almost like bleaker than the Wigan one, but I really like bleak, weird shopping centers. Like that is not me making a diss on it. That is complimentary. But yeah, so the next part of the story is I go and get a coffee, and it's important to note at this point that I go to a Starbucks, and number one, I would not go to a Starbucks now. We don't condone going to Starbucks, and yeah, no thank you. But in the context of this story, this is 2013, and it's really important and relevant that it is a Starbucks. So it was at the point where they used to write, your name, they like misspell your name on the cup. It was like the height of that era. And so I get a coffee and the guy hands it to me and he's like, trick or treat, because it's Halloween. And I'm like, like, well, it's a treat. They're like, treat. And he's written trick on my cup and he's like, no, trick. And I take this so personally for some reason. And I'm like, why would you write trick on my cup? And he's like, it's funny, like trick or treat, like I chose trick. And I'm like, no, it's not funny. I've come and got myself like a little treat. Why wouldn't you write treat on it? Like, why would you give me a trick? And he's just like, no, it's hilarious that I've written trick. And we have this big back and forth where I'm so hurt that he's wrote trick on my cup, right? And obviously it is irrelevant and it doesn't matter. But for some reason, it really, in that moment, I was just so confused why he would do it. And I was just kind of like, why have you put this curse on me? Like, why have you wrote trick on my cup? Like, why would you give me a trick? And he's like, it's literally not that deep. It's just like trick or treat and I wrote trick. But like, it is a treat, you're fine. And then I leave and I go and get on the bus. And I text my brother a picture of the cup. And I'm like, this guy wrote trick on my cup. And me and him are having this back and forth. As in, like, me and my brother are having this text conversation back and forth. Just basically being like, oh, worst day ever. You literally, like, nothing worse could happen to you. You've hit rock bottom. I was like adding to it every time. And we think we're being hilarious. And I'm like, I feel a bit better now because I've had this silly conversation. But the conversation is obviously literally saying, this is the worst day ever. Like, nothing could be worse than this. And then I step off the bus and, like, where I live, and there's no crossing. There's a crossing now, but there is no crossing at this point. And what would happen is everyone would just cross to the middle of the road and then like cross the other side of the road. And, like, I lived here and got that bus every day and got off and crossed the road. And that is what everyone did. I didn't think twice about it. And in this scenario, the road where the bus was, there's like traffic on that side. So we walk through like the traffic and we're all stood in the middle of the road and there's not really any cars coming the other way. So we're looking the other way, like for the oncoming traffic, and everybody goes and crosses the road. But I have like my shopping that's heavy and I have this coffee, and like if something came, I wouldn't be able to like run across the road because the bags were heavy. So I stay and I wait a little bit longer and check again. And then I'm like, cool, there's nothing there, I can go. And what happens simultaneously is that a motorbike is driving on the other side of the road where the bus was. And they're coming down the road and they see all the people across the road. And they are making the exact same, like, mental thought process as me, I guess. And being like, oh, right, everyone's gone and there's no oncoming car. Like, I'm good to overtake. So they put their foot down and overtake the traffic as I step out to cross the road. And they hit me. And obviously I wouldn't have been able to see them because they came from behind me. So next up, I don't know if it's like incriminating for me to tell a story and that like they'll like come for me or something. But so basically this is where it might be a bit intense. So from the next bit, it's like my memory goes like I'm looking to see if there's a car coming, and then my next memory is like the POV of like my head on the ground. So doing like that perspective of like lying on the ground. And I had my hair in like a scrunchie, and the scrunchie was really far away, but like I could see it. And I was just staring at the scrunchie like, what's my scrunchie doing over there? And obviously the way that I remember it is not the way that it happened, but the way that I remember it is literally like how they would show it in a film, where this bit of the memory is happening in complete silence and there's no sound. And it's almost like dreamlike, and I'm just staring at the scrunchie and all of time has stopped. And then my brain starts working. I start feeling the pain, and I kind of realize I'm lying on the ground, and it all comes, everything comes at once. And like, in a film, they would bring all the music in, like it would be like whoosh, and all the noise would happen, and it would be like loud, and you would hear like the car sounds and people talking and shouting, and everything, like all the sounds would be so loud all of a sudden from like silence. That is like how the memory sits in my head. And I don't know if that is actually just because I did PTSD therapy, and part of it is that you have to like relive it loads of times, and that's just like the way that my brain has like relived it. And like if it's more like how I remember things in like a cinematic way, but like it in my memory of it. And then I was like screaming, and people came, and basically luckily a paramedic was just leaving their house on the street, like going to work, and they witnessed it happen, and they could come and get me and carry me out of the road safely. And they like knew what to do, and they knew how to take care of me before the ambulance came, which was like a absolute blessing. I'm so lucky that that happened, because I could have just got hurt way worse by being trapped in the road, or you know the way that I was like if I had tried to stand up or something, like I couldn't move at all. But yeah, I'm so grateful for that. This old lady was like sat with me, and she brought me like blankets from her house. People went and pulled loads of stuff from their houses, and someone brought a chair out for me to sit on a chair. And that bit, like the memory of it is so strange, because I was just like so confused, and I just didn't really understand what was happening. And they were just like, you just need to like hold it together till the ambulance comes, and you're gonna be okay. And so I was kind of doing that. And then when the ambulance came, they gave me loads of gas and air. So then I was just like, when I have gas and air, I think I'm a stand-up comedian, and I start doing bits like quite intensely, and I know that I'm not being funny at all, but I like won't be stopped. And like I'm just doing my stand-up routine like at everyone around me. So sorry to all those people. But when I got in the ambulance, they were like, oh, this is actually really bad. And what happened, like I had to text my brother, and that's like so intense, because the text conversation is like, it's the worst day ever, it couldn't get any worse, I've been cursed by this trick. And then the next message is like, I've been hit by a motorbike, I'm in an ambulance. And he's like, I'll come to the hospital, like, where are you? And that text stream, like conversation, is just so wild to me. Like obviously had no idea, but it was such a surreal experience to have, to just be kind of like wandering around. And also like I was making all these like profound life choices, and like feeling really in control of my fate. Like I was being like, I'm making decisions about what is going to happen in my life, and I have autonomy over what happens in my life. And then I instantly had this like such intense, profound like perspective of like everything just changing like immediately. And I do feel quite grateful for it. Like it's such a like I don't hope for anyone to have to experience that level of like Oh, I don't know, you know, I could have just died, you know, like that, like it's wild. And it's it's not it's like such a weird feeling to have, to be like, well, that was really close, but also it had this huge impact on me afterwards. So like it wasn't just like this, like, "Ooh, that was a close one." It was like, damn. Everything can really change so quickly, and like life is really like fragile and delicate, and like, yeah, we only really ever have like the literal life moment we're living in right now. And to just have immense like gratitude for wherever you're at is like it's a wild way to learn that lesson, basically. So in the hospital, the doctors, they do loads of x-rays. I'm like off my face on gas and air at this point. And my brother and his wife, they were not married then, but you know, they are married now. They came, and like I was doing my stand-up comedy routine for them, but I took loads of photos, and I was like making them take photos of me. And like I was like, I need to document all of this. And they look so scared in the photos. And like also I couldn't really appreciate it at the time. So I was just like out of it. But like they look terrified, and it always puts it into perspective like how serious it was, because of how like scared everybody looked who came to visit me. Like it was so intense, and I just couldn't comprehend what was happening, but like everyone else was really scared. And the doctors were kept coming in and being like, this is really bad. And like from my experience, I spent a lot of time in hospital and they don't do that. And like it was quite obscure for them. Like they were just like, no, this is bad. And like they kept doing x-rays, and they were like, we can't tell how bad it is from the x-rays because it's just like mushed. So my leg, I never remember which way around the tibia and fibula is. So sorry to everyone who does understand. But the little one like snapped at the top and the bottom. The big one shattered. So like normally if you break a leg and it has and you're like a clean break, it just like snaps in half, and then they obviously just put it in a cast or whatever, and it glues back together. Like your bone just grows back together, and that's quite easy for your bone to do. But because mine shattered, it meant that the bone has to like fully grow. It like grows this like growth around the shatter, and then like it's really cool. It's like so amazing how our bodies work. And I'm obviously like doing a really disservice talking about it in this way, but all the bone had to regrow basically and grow over the whole bit that was broken. And it's just like a way longer process. And like basically I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, before that happens, they put it in this like huge cast to just keep it still. And they draw this like massive arrow on my leg, and they keep coming to tell me that the arrow is really important because sometimes they operate on the wrong leg. Which I was just like, I don't think I need to know that. Like, I don't think that needs to be information that I have at all. Like, that's terrifying. And so I have this like arrow on my leg, and they come and speak. They're like in the morning when I have the surgery, and they're like, you have to wait. So basically, this bit is like really intense. So later on, like in my recovery, I watched the film Requiem for a Dream. And if you have not watched that film, I'm about to spoil it. So spoilers. It's an amazing film. It's like a devastating film. I literally can't actually rewatch it because I think it's like a form of self-harm to watch. But it is beautiful and like tragic and horrible. And the cinematography is really interesting, and it depicts like different forms of like drug addiction essentially in really interesting ways. The music is incredible, like just such incredible music. but it's really intense, really heavy film. And there's a bit in it, like one of the characters that they follow is like a mum. She's taking some form of drug, and so like there's loads of scenes of her. They're really interestingly the way that they're shot of her just kind of being high. But then like later on she ends up in hospital. I'm completely ruining the film, so obviously just like please, skip if you have not seen the film. But she ends up in hospital and there's this like horrible scene where they kind of like shove this thing in her face. They make her sign this form and then like, give her consent. And they are so horrible to her. And like obviously this is a quite like dramatized film, and it's really expressive and shocking, I guess. But when I watched that part of the film, I just really resonated with how I felt when I was in hospital, which is like a horrible thing to say. But basically what happened is before I had my surgery, they came to speak to me and they were like, and at this point I'm on like a morphine drip. Like the pain from breaking my leg was unexplainable. And I was in pain for like months and months and months and months, like such a long time. And the pain was constant and like agonizing and exhausting to be in that much pain all the time. And I was on really strong painkillers and they didn't do like anything to stop the pain. It would just it would like distract me from it, but I never stopped feeling the pain. I remember thinking that giving birth would be easy because I'd spent so long in constant pain. But the pain of childbirth is completely different and this is so agonizing in completely different ways. And I was definitely humbled by how I couldn't believe that my body could be in any more, like feel a more intense type of pain. But childbirth was definitely the way, because it comes in waves, you feel it in your body so differently, but the height of the pain was so much higher, like so much like more unbearable than that, like the constant pain of my leg being broken. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting because often like women's pain isn't acknowledged, or women normally like endure deeper amounts of pain before they like flag it. And yeah, like the depths of this pain was unimaginable. I would never wish it on anyone. It was so horrible. But also the childbirth was worse. Can confirm. So, but not in a scary way. I don't want to scare people about childbirth. You can work with your body, and I can do a different episode about that. But I was convinced that there's no way I could ever be in more pain than that, and that was not true. But they come and speak to me before the surgery, and they give me this form to sign, like in the movie. And they say to me, look, the surgeon is going to do their best to fix your leg. And they're like an amazing surgeon and they're really, really good at fixing legs. But they were like, your leg is mashed up. They didn't say it like that, but they was like, your leg is mashed up. And from the x-rays, like, like my bones were just like floating about in my leg. And they were like, when they go in there, they might be able to fix it. But when they go in there, it like might be unfixable. And so we need your consent that we can amputate your leg if once we go into the surgery, that is the only way to save you, to save your life. And, I'm 21 and like being asked to give your consent to have your leg amputated is a wild experience to have. And also to be like on so much painkillers that was I even like in a state to make a decision like that anyway. And I couldn't even make like, it wasn't really my choice. Like, obviously, I'd rather lose my leg than die. And so, yeah, like I had to sign this form. And then when I watched Requiem for a Dream, you know, I found it like maybe cathartic, but also like traumatizing because the depiction is just really intense in that film. Or maybe it's just really intense for me personally, but it is a really intense film. And it just made me feel like how I felt. That that was like dealing without I didn't really know how to describe it with words. And like watching that film, I was like, wow, like just like losing all of my autonomy basically, and just kind of having to like give it away is like a really scary experience. But I had this surgery, and I think like lots of people are really scared about having surgery and going under, and like that bit was fine. And they made me feel really safe. And I've had different surgeries where they've made me like go into the room and like get on the bed myself, which is wild, but also like be knocked out under the like surgical lights and stuff like in the room, which is such an intense experience. But this one, they put me to sleep like in the corridor being like wheeled to the surgery. And in other surgeries I've had before as well, they've done that where you just you like go to sleep like you're like in a corridor and then you wake up like on the ward. Yeah, and I woke up and my leg was still there, which was a relief. But I remember waking up and the feeling of waking up and looking to see if it was there or not, which is a wild sensation to have. In the end, they put a metal rod like through the inside of the big bone, and I have screws in my knee and my ankle that I'll have forever. And yeah, it's actually like lots of sports people, lots of footballers and basketball players have this surgery. The Guardian sent me to Manchester, and I went to the football museum in Manchester once, and they have like a whole section where it's just like x-rays of footballers like leg breaks, and loads of the x-rays look like my x-ray. Fun times if you're ever in Manchester. And also in challenges, spoilers for challenges, when Zendaya hurts her knee, she has the same kind of it's not exactly the same, but she has the same surgery. She has the same scar on her knee as me. And it was quite like gruesome. They're kind of cool pictures, but it's also terrifying where they stapled it back together. So instead of like stitching that like dissolves away, but they use like real staples. And I had all these it looked like Frankenstein. It's kind of cool, but it's like also horrible. And then like there was one day where a doctor like came to my house when I was like bedbound and I couldn't leave my house, and they like ripped all the staples out, which is literally gnarly. Yeah, I also want to acknowledge that I'm like a really big advocate for accessibility, and definitely like physical spaces being accessible. And despite the kind of outcome of what happened to me didn't leave me like physically disabled forever, I also want to acknowledge that I'm just like very, very, very aware of the privilege that I have, that despite everything that I went through in this experience, I got to physically present as able-bodied, and like even when my leg didn't work, I still like looked fine. I'm doing air quotes, looked fine, like to other people. And something that I found on this journey in particular is like, what's happening like internally to someone, either like mentally or physically, if people cannot see it on the outside or they don't understand it, they don't necessarily know how to like accommodate for it either. And that sucks. And it's like a massive problem with the world that we live in. And I think that everything should be a bit more accessible. But yeah, I just want to really make it known that like, every single day when I do something with ease, just like walking and stuff, there are some things that I still can't do. Like I'll never really be able to like run properly and stuff, but I can move fluidly in the world. And I'm always aware of how special that is. And yeah. Okay, I'll stop rambling about that now. But something else that was happening in the hospital, I'll wrap this up soon, is because I was on so much morphine, like such an intense amount, it was making me hallucinate. And I never really like talk about this because I think it makes me sound, insane. But then the other day, I saw this random Instagram post, like a history Instagram post that referred to these like medieval paintings. And in the medieval paintings was like the thing that I was hallucinating. And I never ever seen it before. And I never knew how to describe it to anyone. Then like saw this medieval painting and was like, oh my gosh, that was it. If I get put on loads of morphine, it does make me hallucinate loads. And it makes me really spacey. And when I was in the hospital in particular, when I was on like the drip, I hallucinated this blue dog. Like not like Blue's Clues, don't imagine that. Like a real dog, but it just happens to be blue. And then it had like a human face. And it is so clear in my brain how it looks, but like it's such a strange thing to describe. But apparently in medieval paintings, there's loads of depictions of these like dogs with human faces. And I should have done some research to find out what it means spiritually. It probably means something bad. But if you find out, please let me know. But yeah, this blue dog with a human face sat by my bed the whole time and kind of like talked to me and like just kind of watched over me. And not in a scary way, in like a really protective way. It made me feel really safe. And I can hear how insane that makes me sound while I'm saying it. But I think it's quite cool because, it's in the medieval paintings and, it was a medieval dog after all. I feel like maybe I should stop there. I feel like maybe that's enough. That's enough story. I was still in hospital when the flight left to go to LA, which was devastating. And I obviously did not get to go. Yeah, the redemption story is I did get to go later on, but I did not go in that time. Yeah, and yeah, so that's kind of like that's the beginning of the story anyway. That was like the how it happened and stuff. And it's really intense, but also it's and it's also just like it sounds like a movie, like it sounds made up and it is a wild like chain of events that happened that really did like have like a huge impact. But I can do a separate episode about mental health and PTSD and like therapy and stuff because I am a big advocate for therapy. I did lots of like lucid dreaming in my recovery. It's really interesting to talk about, so maybe I can do like a one about that and talk about lucid dreaming if that's interesting. But that was basically like the how it happened thing, and then it took me a really long time to recover. So, I mean, I guess the takeaway is I definitely will like seize opportunities because I don't have this perspective of like, oh, well, I could do that later, or like, oh, I can do that when I'm old, like when I'm grown up. Like I don't have that perception. I have a perception like that I move through the world in, where I'm like, whatever is happening right now, I'm really, really grateful that I'm experiencing it and that it is happening, because like it could all be taken away. Oh, I had my voice break then. But it could all be taken away, and like not in a fear way. And I don't want it to sit in like a fear space of like, you should be scared that bad things might happen. It's more in like I make all of my choices based on like right now, like even if something does feel scary, or if I don't feel ready, or if I, if I know that I'm sure about something like in my heart, but I'm still feeling a bit scared or whatever, having an experience like this means that I always lean into. And so I can never really like read how intense or not it is to share this, because it's just my reality. And yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it was just too much. Let me know if I need to calm down. Also, if you want me to talk about mental health and PTSD and like what PTSD therapy is like, I can talk about that. I think PTSD therapy is amazing and like life changing. It changed my life. And yeah, and I can talk about lucid dreaming, and I can talk about hospitals if you want. I'll also, I'll tell a story about musicians, but learning contextually about me, I think, is helpful so that when I tell the musician stories, you can understand my kind of motives for decisions that I make, or even inspirations. Like, I think it's cool to understand what experiences like make a person. I think that enriches the other stories. But hey, this one mentioned Wolf Alice a bit, so you have that. So that was potentially really heavy. And so what I'm going to do just at the very end here is do like a little guided meditation. And if you don't want to do that, that is okay. And you can go carry on with your day. You can leave us now. But if you are feeling like it would be beneficial or helpful or supportive for you, then it is here, and you can use this, but you don't have to. Okay. So I'll ask you to close your eyes or lower your gaze. Take 3 big deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And you can sigh, make a loud noise if you're in a space where that's okay to do so. But big deep breaths. Then let your breathing return to normal, and just pay attention to your breath. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to try. Just breathe, just exist, and just pay attention to how it feels. Pay attention to your chest, rising and falling. Hear the sounds that are in the space. Clear your mind. And because I spoke about pain in my body, it might be helpful while still breathing normally, regularly, pay attention to your breath. A body scan is a really good technique just to see if there is any kind of physical sensation of pain in your body, or if you're kind of holding, if anything that I've said has brought up like physical pain in your body, which it might not have, and that's okay. And it's okay if it has to. So if you've never done a body scan before, you start at the top of your head. Imagine your body. I almost imagine it like, like kind of the outline of a body, but it's my body. And you can imagine it filling with like golden light or like liquid or just color. And start at the top and then scan down, like down past your eyes, past your ears, your nose, your mouth, your chin, your neck, your shoulders, down your arms and your chest, to your elbows, to your wrists, to your fingers, each finger filling with light, filling with color. And if you feel any pain, any stiffness, anything in particular, don't judge it, just acknowledge it. Keep going down your stomach, down your hips, your legs, your knees, your shins, your ankles, down your feet to all your toes, all filled with light, filled with color. Now, if there is a part of your body that is feeling pain, what I want you to do is take some deeper breaths, not as deep as the ones at the beginning, but just more intentional. And then send the breath, the exhale, to that part of the body. So focus on that part of the body and then breathe into it. And hopefully it should feel like a little bit relieved. And if it doesn't, don't worry. If you're not feeling any pain, you can just breathe into your chest, into your heart, into your stomach. And just focus on breathing intentionally and being in your body. Now we can start to come back into the space, into the room. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Move your body a little bit. And slowly open your eyes, raise your gaze, and reconnect with your physical surroundings. Yeah, you did it. I'm not like a qualified trained person to do that. So please listen to real guided meditations if you want to do a like real proper practice. But hopefully, if you were feeling a little bit wobbly after listening to that, then just having some time to sit and breathe and just be present and intentional and aware of your body will help you feel more grounded. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Connor Schofield for the music. Thank you to Poppy Marriott for the artwork. And thank you for sharing this space with me. I will see you next time. Have the most beautiful week.